name's Jeff Hemming. Welcome to this art lesson. I'm going to walk you through how I do a landscape drawing with charcoal. Today I'm going to be working on a picture of El Capitan from Yosemite, and let's get to it. I'm using a Canson mixed media paper. It's very smooth and it's 98 pound. It's nice and thick for charcoal paper. I don't really like to have a lot of tooth in my charcoal paper. Some people like to have the texture of the paper. I like a very smooth texture, so the paper I usually use for all of my tutorials and all my drawings has a very smooth tooth to it. The charcoal I'll be using today is vine charcoal and maybe a little bit of compressed charcoal. I will also be using my kneaded eraser, and that's about it. That's all I'm going to be using. So let's get to it. First of all, I have a photo of Yosemite that I took a couple years back of El Capitan that I'm going to be using as a guide. First thing I like to do before I get going, I'm going to use this piece of charcoal here. This is a piece of vine charcoal. It's very large. You can get different sizes. I'm going to be using this piece of vine charcoal, and the first thing I like to do is just get all the paper toned down a little bit. Cover the whole thing. The cool thing about charcoal is that it is very, very forgiving. You can move it around the paper, and it's very forgiving. So next, I'm going to take this little piece of fabric, and you can use a paper towel, you can use a napkin, a piece of fabric, an old t-shirt, whatever you need, and I'm just going to blend this into the paper. And this is just going to give us a nice even tone and get rid of that white paper. And there it is. So there's our nice even tone. Now I'm going to start drawing out what I want to have here. So I'll just go back with my large piece of charcoal, and I'm looking at El Capitan. I want to have the top of El Capitan right up in here. I'm going to just make a mark. I'm not going to draw the whole thing. I just want to make a mark for where I want to have the top, and it kind of, looking at the photo, it kind of dips down like that, and then there's that nice straight down edge that it's known for. And I'll just put this in like this, and down here I'm going to have a little bit of a, maybe I'll have a little bit of a river down here someplace. So we'll have kind of a reflection down here. Look at that, already kind of looks like a reflection. Down here, just a quick reflection, using the side. Reflection down here of whatever is going to be up here. And then I'm going to have some trees up in here. So this is kind of like El Capitan, and it kind of comes down. And then at the very bottom, it kind of comes out. There's a curve to it that comes out like this. So there's the main portion of our focal point there. Right there, and then the back part of the ridge kind of comes about like this. There's the back part, not too much detail on him. And then in the foreground, I'm going to have some trees, some darker trees. So I'm going to go ahead and just put those in. I think there's a couple in here, some pine trees that stick up. And I'm going to have one bigger one over here. And I'm just going to draw those in just as straight lines for now, just kind of to guide me here. This one will come in here. All right, that looks pretty good. So next thing I like to do is add some texture. Charcoal can kind of be a little bit messy, so you have to kind of embrace the messiness. So the texture here, I'm going to just go ahead and fill in El Capitan a little bit. And I'm just moving this around. I just want to give this some texture to be, that it'll eventually be kind of that granite rock face. There we go. And then I'm going to go in with this is my gummy eraser here. You use it to erase mistakes, but I usually use it for a drawing tool. And what I like to do is I like to come in here and just move it around and roll it around, and right off the bat we're getting this nice mark. Okay, we're getting a nice texture mark that happens, okay? And I'm just dragging this around, okay? And this is the beauty of the vine charcoal, the willow charcoal, is that it comes off the paper really quickly. So I can just roll this, like, look at this. I can just roll this up, and suddenly we have like this kind of rock face that's happening, right? We have this texture of like the granite, right? all the rocks in Yosemite, that white granite was really bright, especially in the sunlight. So you don't want to just keep dabbing like this because you'll get the same mark. You want to move this around so there's this nice variation to these kind of marks that you're getting. Okay, so I already kind of erased the trees. I know where they're going to be. It doesn't matter. All right, so now let's play with this edge a little bit. I want the rock to be brighter than the background sky. So I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of charcoal to the sky here. And I want to get rid of this line. I want that line to just be a separation of the rock and the sky. So I'm going to go ahead and add some dark parts to the sky. Still using the edge of my vine charcoal. And if you don't have a big fat one, you can find the small ones. They work just as well. All right. Just going to darken this up a little bit. So now I'm just going to take, this is like a little paper wiper or a piece of paper, and this is going to push it into the paper a little bit more. It'll blend it and make it a little bit more soft, and it's not going to pull as much off. When you use a little piece of fabric, just a brown piece of fabric, it'll pull the charcoal off. And in this case, I don't want to pull too much off. I want to leave it down. So this is just a little piece of paper, and I'm just going to push this in and kind of even it out a little bit. And it's okay if I go over that edge. I can go back and define that edge a little bit. There we go. Starts to look like film grain after a while. Okay, now let's start maybe thinking about some clouds to put in here. There we go. All right, cool. Now, go back to my little piece of fabric, and if I want to start thinking about some clouds, I can start softening this up very lightly. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and just dab this and kind of soften the sky up a little bit even more with the edge of this thing. So now I can go back in with my gummy eraser here, and I want to just start thinking about some clouds. And I'm going to pull up, I'm just going to make some clouds. I'm going to just get a little spot here, and I'm going to just do some circly bits. And these are going to kind of be my clouds. I'm just going to blend the sky so it's nice and soft. Now, I want to create that edge of that cliff. We kind of lost the edge of that cliff. So I'm going to come back in here and I'm going to get this little knife edge here with my gummy eraser. Kind of fold it down. And I'm going to get a nice sharp little edge here. And I'm just going to start redrawing the edge of my cliff, the edge of the nose of El Capitan right here. Right there. See, now we'll start popping him out. And then I want to start looking at some of the rock features. There's a lot of features to El Capitan. I'm going to start adding a little bit of detail. With charcoal, you don't get too much detail. Right in there. All right. So the front of El Capitan is kind of highlighted. So I'm going to just use this for my highlights. Get that other edge, fold it back, kind of knead it, get a nice edge. And I'm going to pop in some highlights here. And the face of El Capitan kind of just falls down. There's a lot of lines that go vertical. So I'm going to keep this a nice vertical edge. And I'm just going to kind of pull some of these shapes down. Right there, that's good, yeah. And then there's a shadow area, and then there's another highlighted area back here that I'm just going to pull down a couple other areas. And I'm just thinking about those rock faces. I'm looking at my photo a little bit. It doesn't have to be perfect. I just want to give the suggestion of El Capitan. And then these ones, there's some longer ones over here. I'll just pull these ones down. There's some real long ones that just come straight down off that rock. And then there's a few arches down here. In this, just like that, we've kind of suggested that rock face of El Capitan. One little one right in here. And I'm drawing with the eraser. You know, you use these erasers. Some people think you use them to clean up mistakes and fix errors, and I actually think they're more of a drawing tool. There we go. And then it gets really bright over here, really bright. Now, if you want to go back in, I'm going to go and grab a very small, this is a very small piece of vine charcoal. They come in all different sizes. And if you want, you can just start adding some, you can give it a little bit of character. You can just start adding in. I'm just dragging this down. And as I drag it down, I roll it. So as I bring this down, I'm going to give some of these lines to the cliff face here. And then there's a couple spots here. There's a dark spot in here. Using the edge, I'm going to kind of make some of these shadows stand out a little bit more, just like that. Oops, almost dropped it. There's a dark spot right in here. All right, and then there's a couple little dark spots right up here, and a couple little doers that just come right down off the edge of that. Real tiny, just, there we go. And there's a darker spot, looks like right up in here, and another one right down in here as this falls down. But try to vary the way you're holding it so you don't get repetitive marks. You know, you want to move it and twist it and always use different edges. So, all right, so that's about, I don't know if I want to do too much more in El Capitan. You can go back. Let's get some of this defined back here. The back ridge here. It's going to be kind of further back there, but I want to define this edge here. So I'm going to kind of darken this up. Kind of goes like that. Maybe put some more in the sky up here. Put some charcoal down here, and then just to give it some texture, go back with the, let's go back. Let's get crazy here. I'm going to grab this. Just smear that in so it's a little bit softer. Maybe smear some of these in so it's softer down at the edges. All right. And then with my gummy eraser, one more time, I'm going to just add in, look how easy that comes up. Just add in some rock shapes, pulling it down, giving that back. There's going to be a tree in front of it, so I'm not too concerned with it. That back part of that ridge back there. And maybe we'll just give a couple little lines here, just so it looks like we didn't forget it. Just so it's intentional. All right, there we go. All right, looking good. Good, good, good. Now, let's do some trees. So most of these trees are going to be kind of silhouetted, so I'm going to put these back up in here. One here, one there, maybe one right there, and there's a couple that stick up down here, and then there's a couple big ones right in here. So I start with the stems like this, the main trunk. And for pine trees, if you want to, you can use a small little piece like this, and I just start dabbing off to the side, and I twist this as I dab, so I keep that sharp little edge. And I'll just kind of put these in. Like that, and I just start tapping it. Now, farther down you get a little more crazy. You know, you can start really smacking this around. This is kind of where you can take out your little frustrations on these. You know, you get these trees, and you do all this work, and you get to these trees, you can start using some force. Look at that charcoal. It kind of just starts busting off. Down into here, and maybe there's another one over here. And that's about it for that charcoal. Let me get another one. So this is a little bit bigger piece of charcoal. And just very quickly, you can go in and knock out some of these trees. Suggest the tree bits. There we go. And let's do a couple more. And when you get to the bottom, you don't need to be perfect. You're just suggesting the idea that there's trees down here. You can just keep hitting that. All right. Indications of some trees here. Work to the edge. Make sure you work off that edge. You want the composition to always go off the edges. All right, and one more little guy here. All right, he's further back, and you can put in as many as you want. You know, you can keep going here. If you want to have one more little guy here, maybe he doesn't have much to him. You know, you should always try to give a nice variety to the trees. If you make one way, give one, you know, some nice thick foliage, and the next one, maybe he's had a fire underneath him, or he's had a little bit too much wind, or you got that bark beetle getting to him. All right, for the big one. Draw a couple stems here, and then you can go out here and draw those little clumps of trees. Little clumps of pine needles that live off the edge of there. Little tiny one back here, maybe. All right, little guy's back there. This guy's going to come back and he'll be closer, so I'm going to get him a little bit darker. Darker things tend to want to come forward. Lighter things tend to seem like they're sitting further back. That's why we left El Capitan nice and bright. He's going to sit behind these nice dark trees. And let's do the top one. Couple little guys living up here, living off the top of that tree, up in that wind. All right, now we're gonna come down to the body of this tree. Tops of the trees, usually people look at the most, so you wanna, you know, take your little time on the top of the tree there. Give this guy some little branches that have a little bit more character to them. Okay. And then when you get down to the middle, all the rules break loose and you just start putting in some texture. You can spend as much time on these as you want to. I'm doing it kind of quick for the video, but you could go back in and refine these and give them a little bit more definition. You can put as many in there as you need to. Still working with the vine charcoal. Okay, let's see how this is looking here. Let's make this nice and straight right along here. Now, we're gonna do a little water. There's the Merced River that runs through Yosemite, so I'm gonna have a little bit of a bank, and then I'm gonna have that water start. So the way water is, people kind of freak out with water, but you don't have to be scared of it. We'll stick with this little piece of charcoal. The bank's gonna be brighter, and then underneath that bank we're going to have the water. Now the water will tend to be a little bit darker depending on how you're looking at it. And I'm going to go ahead and fill this in, and we're going to reflect the light and the dark. So here I got some trees above, so I'm just going to fill this in with some of these indications of trees below. This area is going to be pulled down here. So there's our, and then El Capitan kind of goes, let's see, kind of goes like this. So he's going to get a little white area. So let me go ahead and I'm going to highlight that kind of, that beachy area. I'm just going to use my gummy eraser again, and I'm just going to tap in. And sometimes there's little little plants and things that live right up in here. So I'm gonna pull up like that with the little edge, give the indication of some little grassy things growing up in here. Give it a little bit more of a texture. If you want a good, nice piece of texture, snap it off real fast, and then you can just dab up. If you snap it off, it kind of gives you a funky little edge, and you can just dab up. But you only get one dab, then it picks up the charcoal and it's dirty. You got to grab another piece, and you can just wipe it up. Oops. Snap it off, wipe it up. There we go. Now let's make this beach a little bit more bright. Let's see, a little bit over here. Now, let's see. What we're going to do now is I'm going to get just my paper thing, and I'm just going to drag. I just want to blend this straight down. Just want to blend this straight down. Okay, and then maybe darken up that little line right there. And then the next thing you do, the thing that gives the indication of water is horizontal lines because of the running water. So I'm going to go back. I am going to make my nice little bit here, and I'm just going to put in some horizontal lines and give the indication that that water is running by. Pinch it, break it off, pinch it. Just keep adding as many as you need to. Keep them nice and horizontal. And this will give the indication that that water is kind of rushing by, even though it's kind of glassy. Lighten this area up. But make sure with water you're either pulling down or you're going this way, horizontal or vertical. All right. Now, if we want to, with the water, we can go back in with our charcoal and we can just add a couple little horizontal marks just to give it a little more contrast. Some little details here, just to finish it off. And if you want to, you can even give the indication of some of those stems on those trees. You can just draw, just drag your charcoal right through the middle of that tree. And it'll kind of give the indication of a little stem, a little trunk that lives right in there. All right, well there you go. That's pretty much how I do a quick charcoal landscape drawing. I hope you enjoyed it, and join me again for another one.